We've got riots in Minnesota, war in Gaza and the Ukraine, and the leftist lunatic Democrats continue to fan the flames. It's enough to make you go crazy. But before we let that happen, I'm going to take you with me to my visit to my shrink, America's favorite shrink, Dr. Carole Lieberman, who has been on The Truth several times before. Dr. Lieberman, thank you. And we need a lot of therapy.
Oh man, I was thinking today how no wonder so many people are committing suicide. Um, the future, I mean, other than of course what Trump is going to be able to do, beyond the people who are trying to stop him at every which turn, every which way. Um, but I mean, if you're just a kid or you're uh, any age actually, and you look out in the world, you look at the news, and it's just very depressing. We are regressing. Minneapolis is showing us a lot of things, but what the main thing is that we are regressing um, as a society, as individuals. We are back to like teenage age or childhood where we are just it's me, and it's back to the id, back to the primal um inborn impulses, which are violence and sex. And when what's supposed to happen is that people are supposed to turn, if you grow up in a loving household and everything is nurturing and so on, the violence is supposed to turn into ambition, and the sex is supposed to become connected to love. um, but we are not, that is not happening in the people who are uh, doing the protests, particularly in Minneapolis.
Let's talk about sex. No, that's not what we came on to talk about.
It's always time to talk about sex.
I'm a deviant. What's the matter with that crazed old man? All right. So I really have given a lot of thought to exactly what you're just talking about. And I have wondered for a long time, seriously, why we have become far better educated than ever before, much more affluent than any of our ancestors. I mean, we've got the good life. So, and that goes for everybody in America. The poorest person in America is better off than most of the rest of the world.
Right.
They've got food, clothing, and shelter. Malthus's hierarchical needs. Is that right?
Uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
so, why are we crazier than ever? It does not make sense to me.
Well, it's because of outside influences and some inside influences who are trying to destroy America. I mean, you say we have the best education or we have more education than previous generations. Um, yes, but uh, this education, today's education, kindergarten to college, consists of a lot of anti American hate, teaching kids to hate America. And so it's no wonder that when they grow up old enough to be protesters, that's what they do. Then, of course, we have Soros paying protesters. We have the WEF, um, not just paying, but getting, well, I mean, Governor Newsom is an example of, and in Canada, there are examples of what happens when your leader is controlled by the WEF. Um, and there are all of these things. Then, of course, there's the Red Green Alliance. The red is communism, the green is terrorism. I mean, there are all these factions that I'm just beginning to mention them. All these factions who are trying to destroy America. And convincing people, showing propaganda, convincing people that is what they should do, that America is really bad and it deserves to be destroyed. I mean, look at Mamdani as an example. Not just, it's still, I still can't get my head around the fact that he won, especially since I was saying earlier that I was born and bred in New York, and I still have, my heart is still in New York. So I'm horrified. But he went on to a late night talk show just the other day. I'm trying to remember whose, and the in the middle of a snowstorm, and the audience went wild clapping for him. So it's not just people who voted for him, although I think there was some fraudulent aspects to the vote. But in any case, here he goes on television and everybody's clapping. I mean, it's just shocking that people, do they not know what they're clapping for? I mean, I think that ignorance is a lot of it. They may have diplomas, from higher education, but they are ignorant. They're ignorant about terrorism. They don't realize that the people, gays for Gaza. Netanyahu had something great to say about that. Gays for Gaza are like chickens for KFC. Remember that when he talked to Congress? They're ignorant. They don't realize that if they were in the Middle East or in Gaza, they'd be thrown off rooftops. So it's that in all the different other ways that you can look at it. They really don't. They're not. I mean, I'd hate to say that people are dumber. Well, they are. People are dumber than they once were. Because we certainly have shorter attention spans, and we're being fed drivel in the media. And I mean, certain programs, obviously not from you, but there's too much drivel.
No, I do not. I do not identify with the media. I have a radio show and a podcast where we try and educate and debate and inject humor where appropriate, but really it's we talk about the news, but we don't report the news, if that makes sense. So I don't know that I want to be a part of the media. I do have a media badge for the first time out of necessity, but let's save that because that's a whole nother conversation. But I love the expression that I just heard you mention a minute ago, chickens for KFC. I've never heard that before.
You didn't hear him say
That's
that?
exactly what New Yorkers have done by electing Mandami. I mean, he's going to ruin the city.
Yes.
The people that are going to be left holding the bag are the ignorant people that voted for him.
Yes.
Because the system he's trying to create has never worked. It's not sustainable, and it's being proven right now in real time because billionaires are leaving in groups, and that's the tax base.
It's the same thing in California, where Newsom has raised a tax is proposed. I don't know how far down the line it is, whether it's actually in law, but it's planning to be in a law or a tax law anyway, to tax billionaires outrageous amounts of money. So they're leaving. And with New York, one of the things Mondani promised was free childcare for like 2 and 3 and 4 year olds, before a regular school. Well, why do you think he promised that free? I think one of the things, promised free buses. He promised a lot of free things with really no way to pay for them. But anyway, why does he want free childcare? Because he wants to start indoctrinating the children at younger ages than when they go to pre-K.
Well, he might also be creating a whole new industry like they did in Minneapolis, and the child care centers can pop up all over New York City and block the windows and fly with the doors. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me what's happening. I do sit and ponder these things to an unhealthy degree, probably, but it almost feels to me that we're living in an alternate reality, that these things are not really explainable. And I just, so I typically problem solve by putting things on a continuum. One radical example would be, okay, you said that people just aren't smart. Well, I happen to agree with you. In fact, I just read this morning that the average IQ my home state, the state of Georgia, is 98.
Wow.
I think that is barely functional, isn't it?
It's 100 is considered sort of like functional. 100, it's like you usually under 100 is not good. So 98 is not good. I mean, you can go even lower, but yes, that's kind of the bare minimum, 100.
So that's one potential explanation. The other potential explanation is that someone or some group some entity is purposefully trying to disrupt and destroy our country.
Well, yeah,
And both of those things can actually be true at the same time.
it's true.
And,
That's
and,
right.
and maybe that's why they're able to pull it off. But the thing that really
Right.
disturbs me
Well,
is
I
that
mean,
we have Tim Walz inciting people to riot. We have people that are rioting, that have been caught rioting, and there are no consequences.
right.
We have people that have lied flagrantly to Congress, and the rhetoric is good. Man, they get called on the carpet in the next hearing, and nothing happens. What
Uh-huh.
is going on? This is not normal. This is not explainable to me.
Well, yes, it's because it's a bunch of different things that are all working towards destroying America. There's also Trump derangement syndrome. That is a big part of this because the people who are protesting see ICE as a representative of Trump, that Trump sent in ICE. So, let's destroy ICE because we want to destroy Trump. Um, there's the WEF. There's China putting on TikTok, which dumbed down a whole, not just generations of America, people who are addicted to TikTok. And did the TikTok challenges, stupid, dangerous challenges. Who else do we have? Well, of course, there's. I think I might have mentioned the red and the green, the red communists and the green terrorists. I mean, there's a bunch of people
And the
who are
George
trying to.
Soros and the Adam Schiffs and the Nancy
Well,
Pelosi's and Adam Swalwell who
yeah,
got caught sleeping with a Chinese
yeah,
spy. And Nancy Pelosi said in response that she's not worried about Mr. Swalwell, which I then extrapolate and say, okay, then we need to worry about you too.
exactly, exactly. I mean, yes, it's sometimes before all these protests. I mean, just looking at Congress, like why they're all getting so rich. I mean, Ilhan Omar, thank goodness people are talking, looking into her more.
Yeah, why is
Um,
she still here? Why is she
yes,
still here?
yes. Why is
She
she still here?
violated our immigration laws by marrying her brother to help him be
Yes,
able to live here. That
yes.
is fraud. Not to mention bigamy, but I think is that bigamy? It's despicable, is what it is.
Incest, incest.
Incest. That's right. Thank you. I wonder if they
Yeah.
consummated the marriage. No, let's don't go there. Let's don't go there.
I mean, that's the problem. The people need to be punished for these things, you know. And when
But
they're not
if,
punished,
if
they,
if you
they,
or I jaywalk
they
in
right,
Beverly Hills, we
right,
will get arrested. Well, we'll get a ticket on the spot. I mean, for the ordinary person, the enforcement is quick and severe. But
yes,
for the leaders and people on the national stage, it seems like they can get away with pretty much anything.
yes, yes, or minorities. Excuse me. Um,
Certainly, minorities get a special treatment, it would appear. And we mistreated minorities in this country for 200 years badly. So I think that there is a constant motion in life that is always in operation, that pendulum that continues to swing on its own. And so at one point, we severely and badly mistreated blacks. And now the pendulum has swung way over to the other side,
right.
where we're giving them a lot of extra um, leeway or forgiveness, call it what you will. I just think that really, this is interesting. I don't, this just happened. On my way to this interview, I was grabbing lunch um, up the street, and the irony of this,
Mhm.
I just could not escape it. I snapped a picture of it. Now, where's my dang picture? Oh, nuts. I can't find the picture. I'll find it. Um, it was hysterical. I pulled out of the parking lot at the restaurant, and the city about 6 months ago installed all these no parking signs along the side of the road opposite the restaurant because
Uh,
it's basically in the residential borders a residential area. Guess who was parked in the no parking spots? The West Palm Beach parking enforcement. What? I stopped my car and I confronted the guy. I said, "Is this rules for thee, but not for me?" I
Yeah.
said, "Move your damn car." I said, "There's a space right there that you can park in." And to his credit, he did. And
Oh,
he looked a little embarrassed, but I just could not believe it.
yes. Yeah.
Please don't let me have erase that picture. But I think that is part of the problem for sure.
Yes. That there is this different laws, different, I mean, social justice is just putting killers and rapists out on the streets, whether they're, I mean, a lot of them are illegals, but even people who are legally in this country are just, they're not getting punished. um People, if they steal um from stores, you have to be over a certain amount to get any jail time. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like it's the same thing as people getting ribbons for participating in sports. Not winning, but if you participate, you get a ribbon.
Is there any way we can get the pendulum swinging back in the right direction? What would your solution be? I mean, you know, I tell you, I had such a great childhood, and um, then I had not such a great childhood simultaneously. But um, the teachers in my grammar school in particular were really revered. They were looked at as heroes in the community
Mhm.
because they weren't paid well. They showed up every day and they transferred knowledge and taught little children like me valuable lessons. One lesson was if you stepped out of line, you got the backside of a ruler. And I got my share of the ruler. I can measure really well these days. But now if a teacher disciplines, they get disciplined.
Yes, right. Of course, of course, they're getting disciplined in two different ways. There were teachers who cheered and wrote posts on social media when Charlie Kirk was killed. They were happy, they were cheering, and a lot of those people didn't get fired, but it's the people who tried to say that it was terrible. Some of them got fired. It was really an uneven administration of punishment. um I mean, we need to have, to answer your original question, we need to have from the top down clear rules, which really, I mean, there's the Constitution, there are rules that you can't, even the protesters, for example, they there's no rule that they are not protected by the First Amendment if they bring guns, if they agitate, if they provoke violence. That is not part of what is protected by and if they attack police or attack ICE, that is attacking somebody, is not protected by the First Amendment. And yet somehow they twist this and think that yes, they are, and nothing should happen. I mean, Alex Pretty, for example, he brought a gun. Well, he was in a scuffle before, a week before, and he claims to have gotten a rib broken and told a friend that he was afraid he was going to be killed. Okay, so then a week later he comes back, and this time he brings a gun. Now, what do you think he's bringing a gun for? He wants to protect himself. He wants to shoot an ICE person.
Well, I don't know. You're a better mind reader than I am. My take on it was that he went looking for trouble.
Well, yeah.
And I think he was looking to be a troublemaker. And I also think that he invoked himself into a where ICE was trying to not even arrest someone, but subdue them, I think. And he inserted himself into the middle of that. Well, you know, there's some things that you just know that you don't do. You do not put your finger into a socket You don't run red lights. You don't drive 30 miles over the speed limit lest you be branded a super speeder. There are just certain things you know better than to do. And one of them is you don't mess or intervene when the man is trying to do his job, because it is going to have bad consequences.
Yes, yes.
So the penalty should not be death, but I've watched the video. I've watched it and I did not want to watch it. Anthony over here, my producer, he and I consciously talked about it. He refuses to watch it, but now I forced him to watch it because I've inserted it into one of our interviews. But it's hard to watch. It's
Well, I
really hard to
watched
watch.
it, but it's just like Renee Good. Every media outlet has their angle to Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And some angles look like these people were at fault, and other angles look like the ice was at fault. So you
Well,
can't
Renee
really.
Good, I have not seen an angle that in any way absolves her. Now,
Well,
maybe you
I
saw a
haven't
video I
really.
didn't.
I mean, it's so hard to. I haven't seen an angle that absolves her, but there are pictures being shown in the media, and media people are saying that, see, she didn't do anything. I mean,
I have seen that. I saw actually, I think the mayor of Minneapolis
oh God,
said that we need a full-fledged investigation,
yeah,
otherwise it'll be ramrodded through. Well, you just don't need, sometimes, I mean, investigate, but make sure it's truthful. I mean, if you want to investigate and you're going to deliver the truth, fine. If that would,
right,
I think that's fair. But I don't need someone to tell me what I see with my own eyes from multiple angles. I don't need people to tell me what I've heard. She was yelling epitaphs. She was yelling profanity. She was behaving in a very aggressive, hostile manner. And then it's indisputable that she drove off while she was being detained by a policeman. You don't do that. You
right.
don't put your finger in a socket, and you don't drive off while you're being detained. And the police officers cleaned to your door. And worse, there was one standing in front of her. Well, he pulled his service revolver and he shot her. And I'm sorry for that. I hate it. I feel bad for her family. I feel bad for her, but she made a fatal mistake. No
Yeah,
one is to blame but her. I've looked at it. I've searched my conscience. I've thought about it.
absolutely,
That is my firm conclusion. It would be difficult to
absolutely.
dissuade me. The
Yes.
other guy, I do believe, is a much closer case, but we're talking about a matter of 1 second. Did the police officer who fired the shot know that another police officer had actually grabbed the deceased gun from his holster and had it? Now that's what the liberal left are all making a big deal out
Uh,
about. They had taken the gun from him, but did he who fired the shot
yeah,
realize that? There's only one person who knows that,
uh-huh.
and but even if he did, he had a split second to evaluate and for his brain to process that the guy's gun had been taken from him. I think it is a much closer case,
Yes,
but I
yes,
resolve it in favor of the police officer risking his life, performing the duties of the office that he took an oath to, and
yes,
for the laws to that he was there to
yes.
uphold.
I do as well, especially since the type of gun that Pretty had supposedly goes off by itself. So we don't know if the police officer knew that, or but yes. I mean, you don't bring a gun to a protest. If you're a peaceful protester, why should you need a gun? I mean, what they would say is because these big bad ICE or the big bad police are going to attack me. But
You
you know,
know, I
the
to,
problem is there are no laws. They don't believe in laws. They
to
don't
your
believe.
point, I went to Chuck's Firearms. Oh, Anthony, I lost my damn sound again. You gotta get this fixed. I went to Chuck's Firearms in Atlanta and 30 years ago, and I said, I want to buy a pistol. And they said, oh, well, we'll be happy to sell you a pistol. What's it for? And I said, home protection.
Uh,
And now this is a guy who would make money by selling me the pistol. And he said, that's a bad idea. He said, most people who get shot with a
Yes.
pistol, you had it, but
Yes, they get
end
shot
up
with their
getting
own.
shot by their own pistol. He
Yes.
said, the guy's going to come in at 2 a.m. You're asleep. He's jacked up on crack. He comes in, grabs your pistol, turns it on you, and he's mad that you pointed it at him, so he shoots you dead with it. He said, better just to get a shotgun, and if you hear something go thump in the middle of the night, just go, shh, shh. It's the world international sound for get the hell out of my house.
Yes. I was the head of the National Coalition on TV Violence, and for many years
Sorry,
before
Carol.
9/11, for many years, my main cause was, and I testified before Congress several times about this, the impact of violent media on people's minds. And I do think that is also a factor here, especially after COVID, where people had many more hours to spend playing violent video games. But uh so these people, I mean, so the things, and at the time I also talked about, like, those statistics, you're more likely to get shot by your own gun, blah blah blah, and I would tell people not to have guns. But things have changed. They changed when Obama came in. Ever since Obama came in, I have changed my stance on guns. I haven't changed my stance on violent media, especially not on violent video games. But I think that it is coming to the point where more and more people are buying, including women. I mean, I would consider that, if things get a little worse, having a gun, because
Well,
you do need it for protection.
well, I don't carry, and I don't have one in my car. The next time I'm in Beverly Hills, I've been there twice this year because I've got 2 grandchildren
Oh,
living there now. So, and my wife and I are really smitten over these grandchildren. I'm gonna come see you. You got to help me. I'm a little quick to anger. I always have been, and it's a shortcoming. That's why I don't have a gun at my reach, at my ready. I think I would be provoked into using it, and I don't want to run that risk. But I do sleep with a shotgun under my bed, shells in my nightstand, and shotguns strategically placed discreetly but accessible throughout my house. So if somebody's going to come in, I'm going to be ready. But driving down the road, you have
right.
opportunity for road rage in just about every city in America at any given time. I just don't want that temptation. And
Yes. No, I meant more that I would keep it at home. But
yes,
but when I said about Obama, because I used to think the reason why I was telling people, not to have a gun in your home or anywhere, and also children, of course, are likely to get shot as well, more likely than their parents if there's a gun at home.
yes, that's
But the
been
thing
another
is,
big concern.
at that time, that's when I was naive and believed that all presidents would have the good of America at heart. And then Obama came in, and I realized, wait a second, not all presidents have the good of America at heart. And we do need to be able to protect ourselves.
So what do you think Obama's angle was in wanting gun control? Or is it just simply that control?
Well, yeah. If there's gun control, then whoever is in power is in control. But no, Obama was particularly friendly. He wanted to be the BFF of all the terrorist leaders, and he was more favorable to terrorism than any other president. And just in general, you can't count on him wanting to just do good for you. You might need to protect yourself someday.
What possible justification would anyone have to want to be nice to terrorists unless they were aligned with them?
Well, absolutely.
That's like being nice to Al Capone. I mean, unless you were a liquor runner, right?
Yes, yes, no. Yes, and that was the even larger problem.
Well, we've identified a lot of problems.
Yes, we have. What's the
I'm
solution?
not sure we've come up with the solutions, but
Well,
I do believe that if there's a message in any of this, that Ronald Reagan had the answer. Freedoms are not free, and we have to fight for them every day. And it's really a fight that's never going to end. I think it's, as hard as much as we would like to live in a world that is free from strife. I just don't think that comports with the way that the structure of life has been set up.
well, the only Ronald Reagan was great. The only thing that he did that was wrong, and he got bad advice, it wasn't really his fault, was to close the state mental hospitals,
Yes.
because that was a huge mistake, and that is one of the still affecting us today. Like, a lot of those people who are on the protest lines should be in mental hospitals.
No question.
And
And
or
you know what has supplanted, better than I, the state mental institutions are the state prisons.
Right,
That's what we do with our mentally ill. And
right,
I think that that is a real, real travesty. And,
right.
I have a very strong sense of, I believe, in a healthy way, right and wrong, and compassion for my fellow man, even the crazy ones among us.
Mhm.
So I do think I misstated one thing. I said that's not the way that life is constructed. I think what I really meant to say, as I was reflecting on that statement, is that there is really true evil in this world.
Mhm.
And I never really believed until later in my adult life the notion of Satan.
Mhm.
Um, I felt like that Satan was a fictitious
Mhm.
character that just represented bad things that people might do. And now I've changed that paradigm, and I truly do believe that there is a Satan, and that there are people on this earth that are truly evil,
Uh-huh.
and there is no saving them.
Well, people are born with different temperaments, and some people are born, they become um, psychopaths. But it is mostly, as a psychiatrist, I believe that it is mostly um, nurture. Nature versus nurture. It's mostly nurture. How kids are raised, lovingly or abused. Um, but did you know, by the way, did you happen to come across? I came across this a year or two ago, and I hope I can still find it. Because at the time, it seemed like, this isn't going to go anywhere. But nowadays, I'm thinking there's more to it. There was a story about a school, and I don't know, remember where the school was. Maybe it was Minneapolis. I don't know. But they had this after school program that taught Satanism. Did you happen to come across that?
I
And
have
some
heard
parents were
people
up against it.
refer to it. Yeah, I've not read it, or I don't have any insight into it. But I mean, I have heard of cults like that. I mean, my God. I mean, look, I heard what you said about nurture. I get it. I just, we all look through at things through our own prism. I grew up in a flagrantly dysfunctional home.
Uh-huh.
My mother had a serious illness, and it was alcoholism,
Mm.
and it led to a pretty miserable childhood uh, when I was younger. Um, but I've never felt sorry for myself. I actually felt sorry for my mom. She had an illness, and my only regret was that we were never able to get her the help that she needed.
Uh-huh.
Mainly because, and I pretty much kidnapped her one day and took her to one of your colleagues and got her going on the right path, and it did have
Uh-huh.
some good. But it just kind of reminds me of the story about the twin brothers, that one was a teetotaler and the other was a flagrant drunk. And
Uh-huh.
one of their mutual friends decided he just developed an intellectual curiosity and decided to go to each of them. And he went to the first son and said, "Why are you a teetotaler?" And he said, "Oh, well, that's easy." He said, "My father was an alcoholic."
Mm.
And he said, "Oh, okay, well, that could explain it." And so then he went to the other brother and he said, "Why do you abuse alcohol?"
And he said, "My father was an alcoholic."
That's exactly right. He said, "That's easy. My father was a
Interesting.
drunk." So
Uh-huh.
it's just kind of what we make of it. And it's like me having enough sense to know better than to carry
Yeah.
a pistol,
Yes.
uh, that kind of thing. I mean, whatever happened to the notion of self, uh, not reliance, but
Yes. Um,
accountability, self accountability? Don't you think a
yeah.
lot of this starts there?
I'm sorry.
Don't you think a lot of this has to do
Well,
with being accountable for
yes.
yourself and your own
Yes.
actions?
Yes. Absolutely. Um, and how much, I mean, one thing we haven't talked about that does play a role in this as well, excuse me, is religion. Um,
Yes.
one of the problems contributing, I mean, it's a whole mishmash of all these problems, but during COVID, when we weren't allowed, some states more worse than others, but um, we weren't allowed to go to temple or church, and because of COVID, we were all going to die. Uh, and that got a lot of people. I mean, yes, we did a lot of temples and churches did services by Zoom, but that's not the same thing, and that got people out of the habit of going every week, like families used to do, and that really not only did that make the family stronger, but it gave a different outlook on life. There was good and evil and the Ten Commandments and all of that, and kids aren't being raised by that anymore, and that is really having, I mean, nobody talks about that, but that's having a really profound effect.
Well, I talk about it all the time, and I happen to
Good.
agree with you very strongly. I mean, I said just the other day, would it be possible to start a new conversation in America and we just lead it off with the phrase, "On what do we agree?"
Hmm.
Because I feel like, I believe, I hope that there's so much more that we agree on than things that we spend 90% of our time arguing about, which is a pretty small um, universe of things we disagree on.
Uh-huh.
So it seems to me that that would be a healthy thing for us to practice, and maybe start with gratitude and follow it with the Ten Commandments. I mean, I think the problem with the Ten Commandments is that they're expressed in biblical form, and the Supreme Court has told us that we can't teach that. But how about if we take the biblical vibe away from it and just say, "Don't kill"? Can we
Uh-huh.
all agree? Can we all agree as a national cultural norm that the sanctity of human life should be protected and you cannot kill? Can we just agree on that? And then let's start and work from there on what else can we agree? Can we agree that you don't covet your neighbor's wife, that you don't commit adultery, that you don't lie? Now, there would be a novel one to impose on our public servants.
Uh-huh.
What do you think, Dr. Lieberman? Am I just
Yeah, I think
wishing and
that's
hoping?
I think that's great. I mean, really, that's supposed to be out there already. Like, you're not supposed to kill anyone, or you're supposed to go to jail, but you don't go to jail. So, you know, um, I mean, yeah, I think, I think it would be good to do that before people get so. I mean, as it is, like the holidays, people weren't inviting their relatives if they disagreed with them on politics. So it's hard to. I'm not saying it shouldn't be tried, but I'm just saying it's hard and getting harder to
But,
even
but, but,
agree
but we
with
could teach
relatives.
that norm in school.
Well,
if we could be allowed to teach that as
yeah,
a societal norm in
yeah,
school, it seems to me that that would be a good, healthy experiment to conduct.
yeah.
I do want to ask you about one thing, and I'm a little reluctant to go here, but you
Feel
talked
free.
about,
Feel free.
all right, you gave me permission. Um, the the murder of Charlie Kirk
Uh-huh.
really hit me. I felt sucker punched in the gut. I knew Charlie. I knew him
Uh-huh.
reasonably well. We were not on speed dial. I had his cell phone number. He had mine. We didn't communicate often, but we saw each other 2 or 3 times a year, and we would have congenial engagement. I
Uh-huh.
did meet with him a year and a half ago for nearly 2 hours privately, and he struck me as probably the smartest human being I've
Uh-huh.
ever had the opportunity to know. And to deprive him or us of him
Yes.
and a generation of children of him really hit me hard. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't buy the story. I just don't believe that this Tyler Robinson I don't think he fired the fatal shot. I don't know what, I think he did play a role. I don't know what role he played. My suspicion is he played the role of Patsy.
Mm.
But there are all these allegations swirling around. Erica Kirk's behavior is bizarre at
Yeah.
best.
Yes.
There are all sorts of questionings running around. Charlie questioned Israel's continued war
Yes.
in Gaza and felt that it was transcended from war to genocide. And he
Well, I
also,
don't know if I mean, there's some people are saying that he said that, but I am not convinced that he did. Um, I think that that's people who want to put that spin on it. But I had Charlie on my podcast
as did I,
a while back,
yes.
and I asked him um, probably a question that he didn't typically get asked. I asked him, how did his parents make a Charlie Kirk? Like, what
Tell
went
me.
into him?
That's a brilliant question. I'd like to know the answer.
And well, he was a little, first he was a little stunned or whatever, but he talked about how they took him to church and raised him with these different with good values.
Mhm.
And that's what we need more children to be raised with. I mean, yeah, I know. I don't know what to believe. I also wonder about Tyler Robinson. I mean, yes, he's involved in some way, but I wonder if there it seems like there's more to it. It does.
Well, but I want to ask you how you feel about the influence that Israel appears to have inside our nation. Uh, this is a sovereign state that openly lobbies and works within our media to push forward a narrative that keeps the money flowing to that nation.
Oh,
And I've not figured out. Look, I'm pro-Israel. I have plenty of Jewish friends that I'll tell you, and I don't know your faith. I suspect that you may
I'm
uh,
Jewish.
subscribe to the Jewish faith. I love you.
I'm
I
even
do.
a Zionist.
Well, that's
So
a term that I want to come back to because I hear it used in so many different contexts.
yeah,
I have lost a specific meaning or
yes,
definition of that.
yes,
So I
yes.
want you to help us understand that. But in this country, Jews make up 3% of the population, maybe two. They control 35% of the wealth and 85% of the media. I think they've done that through meritocracy. I think they've done it because they've worked their butts off. They've accomplished all through school, all through primary and secondary education and college. The
Mhm,
Jewish members of our classes were always at the top of the class and the
mhm.
smartest kids, no question about it. So I have a lot of respect, and I also have a lot of empathy because I think that Jewish people have been mistreated for decades. And I thought that any hint of anti-Semitism was absolutely forbidden in our society. I thought that it was right up there with the N word, that it was just,
Mhm.
you went there, you were ostracized.
Right.
And now it's open season. So that's a lot to unpack, isn't it? Let me
Yeah.
stop there and ask you to respond, and you can
Well,
start
there's
by
a lot.
defining
Yes, there's a lot
Zionist.
to respond to.
Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you. You know, I actually spent time in Israel in October. Um, well, helping people, as a psychiatrist, helping people with trauma as part of my terrorist therapist work. I've helped people with terrorism all over the world, really, but Israel, I particularly wanted to go to, and I've been since October 7th. I've been helping people on Zoom, Israelis all over the world, also by Zoom. So I feel, and when I was raised, um, was raised in a synagogue in New York City, and we went maybe not every Friday night but like a lot. And so those are some of my fondest memories, sitting between my parents, at services. And I went to the school, the temple school there, and I was confirmed, which is kind of like graduation, like from high school, but graduation after a number of years of temple school, a school where you learn about Judaism, and you also learned some Hebrew, but that was never my forte. Um, but anyhow, which could have come in use when I was in Israel. Um, but anyway, so part of the education was you absorbed a love of Israel. Like it wasn't, there weren't classes on this is Israel. I mean, I don't know, maybe that was, I don't remember like specific. Well, you learned the history of Judaism, and that was, that starts in Israel. Um, and it just I absorbed that this love of Israel. And so when I said Zionist, I mean, yes, I know there are a lot of meanings these days. It's used by some people as a nasty word, if you're a Zionist. But I just take it to mean a love, a really deep love of Israel, and a desire to help Israel. I mean, so I was on the board of the Magen David Dome in California, which is the ambulance, red, like the Red Cross in Israel. I mean, so I have done things throughout my life, and of course, I've always belonged to a synagogue, um, keeping up Judaism. The problem is, and I'm thinking I would like to write a book about this. Really, parents um, have not made sure that their children have developed a love for Israel. I'm talking about Jewish families have not worked as hard as parents used to do in the past to make sure that their children develop this love of Israel. Maybe I'm not saying everybody has to learn Hebrew, but certainly you need to know the history of your people. Um, and and that is why we have so many Jewish uh, students who get caught up in these protests and so on, because they don't, Jews for Israel, Jews for Palestine. Um, like, it's crazy that if they knew, kind of like what we were talking about before, the ignorance. If they knew the history of Judaism, of their people, they wouldn't be protesting, Jews for Palestine. So, so it really things have to change. People have been very, and I don't think it's just Judaism. I think religion in general. Parents have not been, whether it's Catholicism, any kind of religion. Parents have not really spent time or put emphasis on teaching their children whatever religion they belong to, and taking them to services. And that is a big, where you learn the Ten Commandments and you learn right and wrong and all that. And that is a big foundation for everything we've been talking about.
Well, the one issue with that is that would require the parents to go to church, which
Yes.
might be one of the problems. I happen to have built my house next door to a church,
Oh, well.
and people said, well, you sure you want to live next door to a church? And I said, well, actually, I need to get closer to God, so it's not a problem for me. Now I've lost any excuse I may have ever had for not attending church, because all I do is walk out my front back door and I'm there. But Dr. Lieberman, thank you for giving me the permission to talk to you about this. It's a sensitive subject, and I think that my parents told me the three things you don't talk about are politics, religion, and money, and I think we probably covered all three of them today. But I feel safe talking to you about it, and for that I'm very grateful. And that is the truth, and I appreciate your coming on with us today. Dr. Carole Lieberman, the American's psychologist.